Sorry, Dane's on vacation right now, by the way.
Okay.
Being on vacation is in the vineyard, planting and trimming and pruning and stuff. That's my vacation. So awesome.
So it's not like they show in the movies. You drive in convertible and.
No, that's Alex who drives the convertible. Alex does that.
Wow, that's great. Well, you know what? I feel thirsty. What about you guys? Alex, if you can tell us a little bit more about True North, and I guess this way we can start drinking. And we're probably gonna enjoy you talking a lot more from that point on.
Of course. So we make a number of different white wines here at Hawkins. The True North is a combination of Pinot Gris and Gewürztraminer. It's 60% Pinot Gris and 40% Gewürztraminer, respectively. And it is my favorite of all our whites. This follows a style of wine that is referred to as Edelsviker or Edelsviker, depending on where you are and which country has won the most recent war. But it's an Alsatian style of wine that just means white blend. It's kind of all the leftover parts of Alsace, and they're always some of the most interesting wines out of Alsace, and some of my favorites are also generally very affordable. And we kind of fall within that same line for this wine. So with the blend of Pinot Gris and Gewürztraminer, this comes from a couple of vineyards on Underwood Mountain, which is where the physical winery for Hawkins is located. Underwood is just across the river from Hood River in the Columbia Gorge. And it's a very beautiful area, predominantly silt loam soils. It's very high in elevation, a little bit drier than the Willamette Valley, but not as dry as the eastern part of the Columbia Gorge. And the vineyards that we use for this, Flume Vineyard in I always mispronounce this, but I think it's Energia or Energia, are high elevation vineyards on the Washington side that overlook the Columbia River and are kind of on a stone ledge. So high in elevation with a lot of cooling effect, not only from the mountain itself, from the southern facing, but also just from the general weather and kind of overcastness of the area. And it makes for a very wonderful wine, a lighter wine. For us, probably the lightest wine that we make, with the exception of our sparkling Riesling. And it has not only very high acid, a touch of RS in there as well, but some really delightful kind of sharp citrus notes to me. So lemon and lemon zest in there that I find very, very pleasant and very interesting, and true to the kind of high altitude Alsatian style of those wines. I don't know the exact elevation of the two vineyards, but I would imagine that they're well above the kind of 800 feet cap that we have here in the Willamette Valley. So Pinot Gris from Underwood Mountain is very, very different than the Pinot Gris that we find here in the Willamette Valley, and that's another reason why I enjoy this wine. It's perfect for the weather today, if you can see behind me. A nice warm day and a nice kind of light and sharp glass of wine.
Yeah, and I've kind of showed people on Facebook. That's what we're tasting now. It's Hawkins Cellars, and it's True North. And that's actually going to be another trivia question. But let's try some of the let's try some Pinot Noir from Yamhill Carton. And
so here at Hawkins, we make or have made up to 5 Pinot Noirs in the past. Our winemaker, Thane Hawkins, got his start as the assistant winemaker at Methven Family Vineyards, which has a tasting room just down the street from us here in Dundee. And his original focus was on Pinot Noir and Pinot Gris. So we've always had a very strong and proud tradition of Pinot Noir production, having a tasting room here and the first tasting room here down in Dundee. My favorite of all of them is the Yamhill Carlton. I really, really enjoy Yamhill Carlton growing region. It's the furthest northwest of all the AVAs within, with the exception of parts of McMinnville within the Willamette Valley. It's almost entirely marine sedimentary soil, but the nice thing about Yamhill Carlton is that it is a very kind of gradual area of the Willamette Valley. It does not have the high peaks of areas like the Denby Hills and the Chehalem Mountains. And so you get a lot of really nice and very even sun exposure. And what that does for vintages like the 2015 Yamhill Carlton that we have here is it promotes a very, very good and consistent body all the way through the wine. You can get bigger Pinot Noirs, you can get darker Pinot Noirs, but in terms of the balance of fruit and weight, I think this is pretty unbeatable. So you get a little bit of that bright red cherry, but you also get a nice balance of kind of the dark cola flavor that you can get from the Willamette Valley as well. And this also has a very, very weighty mid palate for its color. And so again, kind of dense all the way through, which I really enjoy. 2015 was also a very interesting year. It was probably the hottest year we've ever had on record here in the Willamette Valley. There were multiple weeks over 100 degrees. And so you had to manage the ripeness very carefully for this particular vintage. There was a lot of grapes that ended up getting sun damage. And so if you did not pick early enough, you could have some kind of raisiny characteristics in the wine, but Hawkins does an excellent job of picking early. And so this wine has great ripeness without any of that kind of raisiny effect to it.
Okay. Some more people joining us. Yeah, so guys, for those who are joining us now, we are on Yamhill Carlton Pinot Noir. And Alex, can you tell us a little bit more about the winery, the story of the winery, and how that if you want to take a lead here and maybe give us your story?
So I'll do the Thane part, at least as well as I know it. Thane Hawkins, who is what Hawkins Winery is named after, was originally an animator by trade, and worked for a lot of big animation companies, but had a great interest in wine and also a great interest in the Northwest. He is from Minnesota originally, but became the assistant winemaker out at Meth Bend Vineyards in 2007. And so he started making Pinot Noir there, but also started with small production lots of his own wine, which is where Hawkins Cellars comes from. So while he was doing that, he was also continuing to work as an animator and opened the tasting room here in Dundee a few years later. That is kind of the first chapter of the winery's story. But the second chapter involves Thane's partner, Deb, who I will let take over if she would like.
Oh, wait. I wasn't ready.
On the spot, sorry.
Yeah.
And for
it makes
everyone Deb is the owner of Cloudcap Vineyard, our state vineyard here at Hawkins, and also the general manager for the.
Hi.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
So, yeah, I was part of, the growing gorge wine grape industry when it was starting, and so I've been involved in some form or other of either owning a vineyard or developing a brand for a vineyard for a while. And then I put it on hold, but I always had this property here. And then I met Thane, and he loved being part of the gorge for all the activities that are here. And so we just started scheming and talking about having a winery here. We're in the National Gorge Scenic Act area, so it's pretty tough, but it's also really it's really an amazing area that is, there's not too much construction. It's very well protected. And in the past 5 years, this area has blown up, especially Underwood Mountain, with vineyard plantings and wineries and all of that.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. So what do you guys, now it's probably in the past few months, it's been challenging for probably every winery. What are your biggest challenges now? And how do you overcome them?
Yeah, so we did well with, massive case sales, but, just reopening our Dundee tasting room is really small. So the capacity it's our indoor spaces that are a huge challenge. We have a pretty big enough courtyard, I think, even in Dundee, and outside here, we've put a lot more tables. We've expanded our outdoor area so that people can social distance. But again, it's the indoor space that is really challenged for tastings. So I just think that it's just going to be a while before all of us are able to feel comfortable and normal. And it's, Alex, you could probably talk to this, giving a tasting with a mask on is it's really tough. So, it kind of takes away from everything. So I think that's a big challenge.
Yes, we're in a very interesting spot right now. Not just the masks, but the overall experience of coming to wine country and doing tastings is changing. We're limiting crowds. It has a little bit less of a festive atmosphere than it did in the past when you had bigger groups. But that's not to say that the wine itself has changed in any fashion or has gotten worse. We just can't take as many people at any one given time to enjoy it, and that also limits our ability to do things like large-scale events and things that the wine industry had really relied on. We're at a very interesting point in the overall wine industry right now as it relates to coronavirus and the effects from that. Most of the wineries, the vast majority of them in the Pacific Northwest are very small by production volume. All but I think the 100 largest make less than 5,000 cases. And because of that, we rely very heavily on our direct-to-consumer business. So not being able to open has really had an effect on wineries' abilities to operate effectively and produce wine and sell wine in the way that they had before. And because we are so small, we don't have, or most of the wineries are so small, they don't have as great of a distribution network to fall back on. So what the wine industry is doing and what we are doing is kind of threefold. First, we are offering discounts on existing wine or wine that is phasing out in terms of vintage. That was a successful thing that we did over the past 2 months. In addition to that, we're also offering home delivery, which a lot of wineries have done and has been very effective for us to the Metro Portland area. We have worked very diligently on getting some additional distribution business. So even though the economy has taken a bit of a hit, wine sales are actually up 15% nationwide over the last 2 months compared to the same time last year. So people are still buying wine and still consuming wine. They're just doing it in a bit different of a way. And then the third thing is we're trying to make the summer as welcoming and pleasant as possible to kind of catch up. We're very lucky here in Oregon that our busy season falls from Memorial Day to Labor Day. And so maybe a little later. And so, if we can still have a solid summer, hopefully most of the wineries will come out not feeling too much adverse effect. But yeah, crowds are definitely down. And even if we do get the people that we want, we oftentimes have to turn them away because we just don't have enough seating.
But yeah, we've been there. So hopefully the weather will be nice and dry so you can use the outside place.
Right.
Yeah, can join it. And you also mentioned that there are new exciting wines that you'll be releasing shortly. So you want to mention a few because, we've seen Backland and you said there will be a rosé and some other stuff. So want to share the preview?
Yes, so a lot of very new and exciting wine available from Hawkins, most of which went up on our website today. We have our new 2019 vintage Stormy Morning Rosé, which I just picked up from the warehouse today. It is literally brand new to us. In fact, I haven't even gotten to taste the bottle, but the color is beautiful. And then we also have a very interesting project, Pet Nat Riesling, which I was fortunate enough to share with the two of you. This is a semi-sparkling Riesling from the Columbia Gorge that is a fun addition and something that we had not done in the past. So that's a very limited run. That's only 70 cases of production. We don't plan on distributing that wine. But in addition to that, we have new vintages also of a number of our existing wines, Reserve Syrah, Caldera Red, right around the corner also.
Okay, excellent. So I guess to find out how those taste, people need to stop by your wine because it's not available in the stores.
No, you'll have to come in and wait a few weeks because the wine is still technically not released. I believe the bottle that we poured for you didn't even have labels for the sparkling Riesling on it yet. That's how new it is. So as the summer kind of gets into gear, we'll release with our next club release, which is coming up here next week, and we'll have a number of not only classic favorites here at Hawkins, but a number of new wines to try as well.
Cool. And well, let's try the last wine, the Red Caldera.
So this was my personal favorite, but we are currently joined, if you would like to talk about it, by the maker of said wine. Thane, you want to jump in here and talk about Caldera Red? Sorry, Thane's on vacation right now, by the way.
Okay.
Being on vacation is in the vineyard planting and trimming and pruning and stuff. That's my vacation. So awesome.
So it's not like they show in the movies. You drive in convertible and.
No, that's Alex who drives the convertible. Alex does that. Have you seen his Corvette? It's pretty hot.
Yeah.
But no, today I was living my best life. I mowed the vineyard in the morning and I went kiteboarding in the afternoon and took care of a sick puppy. So we had a very nice day. But thank you all for hosting this. I really appreciate it. The Caldera Red is a wine that I made starting in 2011, and it was the first time that I'd actually made enough wine to be able to do a blend, because you have to kind of have a certain amount of quantity to be able to throw stuff together. But I always, I've been. I'm a big fan of Sinkline Winery out here in the Gorge, and James has done a wonderful job with Mourvedre and other Rhone varietals. So that's kind of where I first got really turned on to Mourvedre as the potential for a kind of a feature grape rather than just a blending grape, and found a great spot. Kiona Vineyards, Heart of the Hill, their Heart of the Hill partition, and just started experimenting with that from Red Mountain, and then the Grenache, and then the Syrah I was always making. So just really wanted to have an approachable blend. We've done Mourvedre as a single varietal, but it can be pretty intense. So always nice to kind of have some other varietals to blend with. But I always try to feature the Mourvedre as the primary grape in the blend. So.
Okay, excellent. So what's the treatment of with the oak on this one?
With Rhone varietals, I really try to do very little. There's no new oak at all. What I'll do, my general regimen is I'll put new oak in cab, and then the second and third year and fourth years I'll kind of transition them over to the Rhone varietals. So I really don't do any new oak in the in any of my Rhone varietals. So this is we're doing the 2016, yeah, is that correct? So that would be we did 18 months in pretty much mostly neutral oak. There's a little bit of newer oak in the Syrah, but the Grenache and the Mourvedre is all pretty much neutral oak. So in total contribution, I'd say maybe like 15-20% new wood. So I really just kind of feel like with Rhone varietals, I just really like to let the fruit speak for itself, and the wood is there as just a supporting element, but very, very subtle. So
yeah. So actually, you know what? Since we got you in the room, I always have a 10 set of interesting questions for the winemakers. But don't
Okay.
invest too much time into thinking the answer. Just pop wherever comes to your mind first, and you might recognize some of these questions because you know the best things in life, they are borrowed, they're not invented. So I
Yeah.
borrowed some, modify them for the winemakers. So what would you say is your favorite word?
My favorite what?
Word. Your favorite word.
Oh.
Word?
Word?
Yeah.
Guava.
Okay. I won't ask why.
Well, I'll tell you if you want to know, but it's
Sure.
totally obscure, and everybody will just shake their head. But my favorite band in college and post-college was a band called Ween, and they have an album called Pure Guava, and I just always thought that that was a super clever name. So if you want to hack all of my online accounts, you just start with Pure Guava, and then if you can learn my birthday, you'll pretty much be in. So
Okay. Got it. Okay.
you'll
Well,
pretty
I'll
much
just
have full access to my online presence. So
Okay. Got it. What's your least favorite word?
my least favorite word, beets. It's because it's my least favorite vegetable, so I'll just go with that one.
Okay. Okay, that's cool.
I
So
don't
what
even know.
turns
I don't
on
even
your
know if beets is a vegetable, but
Okay. What turns on your creativity spiritually and emotionally?
I mean it's going to be a cliche, but I really, I was always into winemaking, but I never really fully appreciated the process until we got more involved with the vineyard side of things. And so just I was out in the vineyard, and I literally just on days like this, I'll just stand out there and just kind of like, I don't know, I just try to kind of feel everything happening around me. So that's really just I could say nature in general, but just really just the natural world is where I get revitalized and inspired. So
We can relate to that.
I was just down in the vineyard planting some rosemary. So we have a lot of rosemary and lavender down in the vineyard, and originally it was supposed to be deer prevention because we were too cheap to put in a deer fence. So and so the deer destroyed the vineyards like the first 2 years, pretty much took all the shoots off. And so the third year we did finally put in a deer fence, but we have some lovely lavender and rosemary down there. So every once in a while we replant. The rosemary doesn't do that well up at 1,400 feet elevation, but we keep replanting it anyway. So the lavender does great though.
So what turns you off other than beats?
What turns me off?
Don't think too hard, dude. Just
Yeah. Just working too hard. You know, as a small winery, and just we all have so many hands in so many different things, and occasionally I just I love having a team, and I love having Alex on board, and I love delegating. So but sometimes I just get overwhelmed with just the amount of stuff, from vineyard to winemaking, and then all the marketing stuff. So I would just say that's kind of what turns me off, is when I just get too darn overwhelmed, I would say.
I think more than a few people on planet Earth can relate to that.
Yeah.
What's your favorite sound at the winery?
My favorite sound at the winery is when the bungs blow off the barrels. That sound of poosh. That's when I know I have a really active fermentation and things are all good.
Okay.
Let's go with that one.
What's your least favorite noise at the winery?
The sound of barrels dropping off of um, uh, 6 foot high or 8 foot high, 3 stack barrel holders. That's my least favorite sound. And it rolling down the street. That's my favorite sound.
Yeah. And well, when that happens, what's your favorite curse word?
I'm a big fan of the F word. That one always feels good. There's nothing that beats the F word, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, you tried many things in your life, and what the profession other than you do now would you like to attempt?
I really would like to. I really feel like I've got a really good screenplay in me.
Okay.
I've got a lot of ideas that are somewhat written down, and someday when things settle down a bit, I'm gonna take a stab at a screenplay, I think.
Anything along the side of Sideways? Another varietal might need help.
No, not really. They're more about my misadventures in my travels in South America, and I used to work in animation, so I've got some really, in my mind, some funny ideas about possible animated films.
Okay. So what profession you would never ever want to do? Other than dentist.
Definitely a lawyer. I've got my girlfriend Deb's a lawyer. I've got friends who are lawyers, and they are nothing but stressed out and and worried about things all the time. She's always like, "Did you know this could happen and that could happen and that could happen?" I'd be like, "No." and I'm gonna just pretend like you never said that to me, because ignorance is bliss sometimes.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, and that brings us to the last question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
You did your best.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing with us. And I know these are personal questions, but it's always interesting because we look at the bottle, but behind every bottle there are hands, there are people, there's sweat, blood, and lots of work. And the days when you wake up in the morning and you ask yourself, "Why am I doing this?"
Definitely.
Yeah. So thanks for creating beautiful wines. Thanks for sharing them with us, and thanks for sharing your story with us. And we're looking forward to watching a movie with your screenplay.
Yeah, I'll let you know when it gets picked up by not Harvey Weinstein.